Why it gives me this screen. It says something. Got it. I got to hit. Got it. I got it. I got it. I got you guys. We are connected. As you can see, I'm your roving reporter again this day. Calling you from my hotel room right here in good old Texas. Wow, what a great state. I've been having a lot of barbecue in the last couple of days. Just want to tell you all that. A little chicken fried steak, some black eyed peas, some grits, some collard greens, and I'm sure that's why you tuned in. You get to hear my menu. But that's not why you tuned in. You get tuned in because we have fun here talking about all the good stuff called dysfunction and getting better and fighting war against dysfunction, one dynamic at a time. And we're doing that all together. And that is fun. So the way that we do that, let me pull up my screen here. I've got in my roving studio here, my iPad that I need to talk to Albie on while you guys are calling, and I get all the calls. It kind of like was falling off. 844-940-2774 is the number. 844-940-2774. 844-940-2774 is the number to call in and get on the program and join us. If you have never tuned in, the callers call in with a question and a dilemma, and the rest of us go, oh, I've been there before. Nope, don't do that. Do this. Or we say, oh my gosh, I'm glad she or he called because that's right where I am today. I got to listen to this. Or something like, well, I've never been in that situation, but I've certainly had that feeling. And you know what? We all identify with each other because, as one of my favorite verses says, these struggles are common to mankind, that there are certain existential issues like isolation and loss of freedom and metabolizing evil in the world. And just things that all of us encounter. And that's what this show's about, dealing with those. And what faith has to do with it, and what psychological insights and research have to do with it, and what practice and experience have to do with it, and what support and the wisdom of the tribe. Talk a lot about herd immunity. And one of the, in the psychological space, one of the aspects of herd immunity is the wisdom of the herd. Because as we get together and we trade our stories and experience, we can, do a lot by sharing with each other. And that's what happens. You go to Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and the formats that we have here, you'll see the postings by people who have experienced what you've experienced. So go check them out. There's some good stuff there. Okay, so we're going to hop into our thought for the day before we take some callers. But quick reminder that on September 28th, we have a 2-hour webinar coming up live that evening. And if you can't watch it live, sign up for the live event and then watch it afterwards. You can stream it as many times as you want after that. But it is called The Art of Confrontation, Delivering the Truth with Love and Grace. And it is about the art of conversation, which is also a science of confrontation. Go to boundaries.me/confront to sign up. Boundaries.me/confront to get signed up for that. And we call it the art and the science and all that, the methodology, the way to do it. We're going to talk about the way to confront difficult situations and difficult people, and not even difficult people, but hard things to talk about, tough things to talk about. Because, when there's a difficult conversation, it's like we're talking about something that's really important that people have strong feelings about, and they have differences. You put those two factors together, that's what all those Harvard researchers discovered. If you put three things together, you got a difficult conversation. The stakes are high. It matters, whatever you're talking about. There's high feelings about it. And then also, not only that, you have different perspectives. Okay, that's like a combustible like formula, those three. Well, we're going to be talking about, and there are ways to confront somebody that's irresponsible. There are ways to confront people that are out of control. There are ways to confront people that are hurting you in some way that work more than they don't work, or more than, I should say, let's put it this way. There are ways to confront people that are the only ways that have a possibility of working, and they work, you know, a lot. Here's the thing. If we do it the ways that don't work, they never work. So we're going to learn those ways. And also on the other side of going, it's not just difficult people, but sometimes people are irresponsible. Sometimes people are asking for things that you don't want to give and you can't give. And you're tired of enabling somebody. There's all of those confrontations. And sometimes you confront somebody with something not because there's anything in it for you, but you love the person and they're ruining their life in some way. And that's a different time in a different way. So we're going to learn all of that. 2 hours. Go to this website, boundaries.me/confront to get signed up for that webinar coming up in the not too distant future, September 28th. But sign up now so you got your seat right there in your house or wherever you do it. And bring a group together. Bring some friends over. Do your small group. I'm going to give you a bunch of materials with it so you can use them as a guide to go through it and kind of turn this into a learning path or a small group or anything you want to. Boundaries.me/confront. Okay, so I think, a lot of times I give y'all a thought for the day that's really a bummer kind of topic, right? We deal with pain a lot of times. And I'll list something that is, it's like, really? We got to talk about that? Yeah, we do. And it's helpful, but it's not a happy topic. Well, here's a happy topic for you today. How about this one? Our topic for the day is play. Play. Yeah, play. Why does life have to be so serious? I was working with a very high level executive just today. Is responsible for about $15 billion of operations in a business. And we're talking about the team has some difficult things they have to talk about. And we're talking about the value of really, really listening to what people, closest to the issue have to say, because we can really learn. And we're talking about it always helps to hear people's perspective, even about us, because we learn. Even if they're wrong, we learn that they've got that opinion and that's something we got to deal with, right? So we always learn about listening. You know what? You're not learning if you're talking, usually. If we're listening, we're learning. And so one of the things he said was, he said, I got life-changing feedback from my 9-year-old a few years back. You know what the feedback? He said, changed my life. And I didn't know this. But he said, my 9-year-old daughter looked at me and said, Dad, why are you so serious all the time? And he said, I didn't know I was being that way or coming across that way, but I started thinking about it. And then you go into all this, how weighty life feels all the time. And then you start to carve out some more space of play is what we need. Play. There's been a lot of benefits that have been derived from play. Stress relief can improve the way your brain works. We start to play, and if we're engaged in whatever we're doing, like we pick up energy and motivation, and it changes moods, it engages us. Play a lot of kinds of games to get your brain working. You can even ward off some aging stuff. It improves your relationships, connect with other people. I mean, even games. One of the best things that happened, COVID lockdown, when it first started last March, can't believe it's been this long, but it has. But when it first started and we were really, really locked down, at least where I live in Los Angeles, in those, March through whenever, months and months and months. And my daughters came home from college, and we were all locked up in the house together forever. And so I was talking about the importance of structure and adding some structure to our lives and having regular kind of things. And then part of the structure was every day, everybody would meet in the kitchen, 5:30. We're all cooking dinner together. Remember how stressful that was in those early days? And not that it isn't now for and horrible for so many people, but it was the early days. It was really so much unknown and all that kind of stuff. And so we're going to cook dinner together, and then we're going to eat. And then after we eat, guess what we did every night? Game night. We call it game night. And so we go play a game. And I'm telling you, I had forgotten how much fun it is just to play games, like board games. It's so hilarious and so much energy and fun and competition and, you know, all of that stuff, but just the four of us, Tori and our two daughters. And I was reminded of just the structured games. But how about other kinds of play? Play with your dog, play with your kids, just whatever it is. It changes you. It changes you. I'm a lifetime competitive golfer, and it changes me when I play. It changes everything. I remember I had quit for a while for years actually when the kids were certain ages because it just took too much time. And after they got to be teenagers and kind of were out so much of the time, and Tori said to me, "It's time for you to start playing golf again." And I'm going, gosh, it'll be so much work. Got to get my game back. I got to, and it looked so momentously big. And we're talking about, yeah, I should, but I got to, there's so many steps to it. And she said, besides, I like you so much better when you're playing golf. And I went, what do you mean like me better? She goes, you're just different. You're much more fun. You're more like, and I kind of saw it, I'd gotten serious kind of or down in it. So I want you to look at this at the micro level and the macro. Does your life have enough play in it? Really, Martha, you're worried and bothered by so many things. That's what Jesus said. And she was hurrying and scurrying. Got to get this done. I got to get this done. I got to get this done, and all this kind of stuff. And he looked at her and he said, there's only a few things that are important. One of them, he said, you know, sitting there as Mary had done, choosing to connect with him. So, are you carving out enough time for play? Some of you may need to structure some of this, like, join a bridge club. Do those still exist? I remember my parents had a bridge club, Monopoly club. Put one together. That's what my parents did. It's interesting. My parents both lived into their 90s, and they were older when I was born. I was kind of an oops in midlife for them, way past when people had babies back then. I figured that out when I got to be a teenager. I was doing the math on how old my parents were. They were my friend's grandparents' age. And I said to my dad one day, I said, I wasn't playing, was I? He said, well, let's just say we tried to make the most of our mistakes. That's what he told me. Anyway, they were older. Point being, they lived into their 90s. And as we know, And a lot of reasons, a lot of that has to do with lifestyle. And one of the things that my parents did so great was they played so regularly and in a structured way. My dad had his regular group he played golf with, but they had two different, they like to play bridge, two different bridge clubs that would, and at least one night a week, I think they staggered them, they would, two couples, two more, three, four couples, I don't know, however many have two tables, three more couples, come over and they'd have dinner and then they'd play bridge. Structured play. Maybe you need some structured play. Okay. I'm not going to tell you how to do it. You got to pick your own game or fun thing. But lighten up. It doesn't mean we don't deal with serious stuff, but if we're not carving out some lightheartedness in life, then our brains don't like it. They don't like it at all. So let's get some good juices flowing through there. That's our word for you for today. Go have some fun. Have some fun. There's a reason in psych hospitals we have playtime. Think about that. I'm trying to get undepressed. There's a reason we send kids out for recess. Why don't we send adults out for recess? We should. You should send yourself out for recess. Really, really important. Okay, so let's hop into this. Let me give you the number out. 844-940-2774. 844-940-2774 is the number to get on the program. And we're going to go first to Rose, who watches on YouTube from this great state where I am, today. And that's in somewhere in Texas. Rose, welcome to the program. Are you there?
Hey, we lost Rose.
What is her question, Albie?
What would be a good question to work on with my counselor around self-love? She wants to
your counselor doesn't love himself or herself?
I think Rose would probably be better at addressing the question, but
my counselor doesn't have any self-love. Oh no, Mr. Bill. Okay.
No,
was that the whole question?
No, she was asking about how she's a people pleaser, and that she knows that a lot of that has to do with a lack of self-love, and if she can address finding a way to love herself more, that might address some of her tendencies to become a people pleaser.
Where did she get this diagnosis? Did she say?
No, she didn't. Let
me see if I can get her back. Told her that. That's all right. I can just answer it, and then we'll go to our next caller. But so we don't have to wait. But let me talk about this a little bit. So the thing about self-love. Now I don't know why she connected that to people pleasing. People pleasing come from a lot of different places, but the concept of self-love is an interesting one. In that there's a good way to think about this, and then there's a not so good way to think about this. And the not so good way to think about it is if it puts you in a position for you to be the source. The source. Now, what I mean is the original source. You hear it said this way. Well, you can't ever love other people until you love yourself. You ever said that? There's not a bigger crock of you know what than that statement. Almost. I mean, I guess there are bigger ones, but you can't love others until you love yourself. Are you kidding me? Where's the self-love going to come from? Think about this. What if you took a baby, and as soon as that baby is born, say that baby, you'll be able to love other people after you love yourself. So go for it. What did that baby do? Wee, 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 wee. They would be screaming for love. You know why? They don't have any self-love. They're empty. You know why they're empty? You don't know why they have any self-love? Because they've never had any other love first. So here's what science tells us. And here's what the Bible tells us. I mean, God says this very specifically. We love because he first loved us. That's from the book of First John. We love because he first loved us. In other words, I get loved and then I've got love. Remember, got milk? Well, if I get loved from the outside, then I have love to be able to love others. So this thing about can't love others until I love myself, or really, I can't love others until I've been loved. That's why babies, they get the crud loved out of them in a good way. They're just love, 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 love everywhere they look. Mama loves them, daddy loves them, Aunt Sally loves them, grandma loves them, sister, brother, everybody loves them. What do? They just turn into loving people because they're so full of love and they got it to spread all around. When you take somebody that's abandoned and abused and not loved, tell them to love themselves out of that empty darkness of pain. No, I think we better love them first. So here's how I don't want you to think about this. That you're going to, if you're isolated or been abandoned or never connected with or lonely or whatever, it's going to be hard. It's hard without good support and love from the outside. So here's what happens. Then we internalize that, and then we start to think differently about ourselves. And life says, you're a loser. And we go, no, I'm not. I'm all right. I do some good things. Well, how do I know that? Because there's people that love me. And they've told me. And I know they're in my corner. And so I might be away from them. And then I could have some, quote, self-love and feel good inside because it's been put into me. That's why the Bible says, encourage one another. So we can be out alone and take courage, right? But we're going to take courage because we've been encouraged. So, yeah, you can encourage yourself. You can love yourself, talk to yourself better. All of that self-compassion stuff's been shown by research to really, really be helpful in a lot of ways, and validating and internal, emotional regulation, a bunch of other stuff. How we talk to ourselves is really, really important. But you got to get those good voices in your head from somewhere. Now, certainly we can do all we can to, combat the negative stuff. But the more we're vulnerable with people that have love and understanding for us, and we take that in, then that's a really good thing. One of my favorite verses says, hope deferred makes the heart sick. In other words, if we're hoping to be loved and hoping to be cared for, and it never happens, it makes our heart sick. But then it says right after this, it says, but a desire fulfilled or a longing fulfilled becomes a tree of life. What does a tree of life do? A tree of life sprouts off fruits like a pecan tree, sprouts off pecans. An orange tree sprouts off oranges. Well, a tree of life sprouts off life. And when our desires for love are met, then that tree is sprouting off life inside of us. And that can be self-love for sure. We feel it. I'm okay with me. The only way I'm okay with me is because people have, the old thing, I'm okay, you're okay. Well, I'm not okay, you're not okay, and we're okay. It's like, because we've been accepted like we are. So we internalize that acceptance. And I'm not perfect, but I'm fine. I'm good. I don't mind that I have weird parts. because people have loved me. So now you got self-acceptance because we've been accepted. So that's what I mean by not being the source. All righty. Let's go to Rita, who's calling us. She watches on Facebook, where a lot of people hang out and make comments for each other. And she's calling us from the great state of Washington. Rita, welcome to the Dr. Cloud Show.
Hello. It is an honor to get to speak with you today.
Oh, I'm glad you called.
Yes.
Tell me how
so,
tell me.
So the question is, is the most effective way to deal with a breakup after I had been through a divorce. So my divorce was final 7 years ago, and I took the time to heal. I read just about everything that you've written, went into counseling, and was doing healthy things for myself, and met a very wonderful person at the gym. So I figured that's a safe place, right? And,
I don't know. Wait, just
well,
question. Well, do you mind if I interrupt and ask a question about that before you get to the question? Why would the gym be a safe place?
Group focused, healthy, building a healthy body, healthy mind.
It's group focus. You were in a class. Is that what you mean? Group focus?
Yes. So it wasn't like a meat market. And let me catch this by saying I'm 51 years old. So I was very frightened to even enter into the dating world or tap my feet into it.
Yeah, it can be scary. I just wonder why you thought a gym would be a safe. And I'm not picking on the gym thing. I'm just kind of like, somebody called the other day and had a really not so good boyfriend situation going on. In fact, it sounded really bad. And she kept giving him another chance for like 2 years. This guy's dragging it out and dragging her on, and and never following through, and stiff arming her and all this kind of stuff. And I said, why do you keep having hope? What gives you hope? And she said, because I keep thinking he'll change. He's gonna, that he's gonna change. And I said, but what makes you think that? And she goes, well, I don't know. I met him in church. And I said, what would make meeting somebody in church think that they're a good person? I mean, the Bible itself says that in church, there's some good people, and there's some people you better stay away from. So all I'm saying is, let's be careful. Sometimes I met them there. They must be good. That's all. I just wanted to mention that.
So demographically, I live in a very small community, and so the way to meet people is either you go to the gym or you go to the bars.
No, it's a great place. Hold on. It's a great place. I'm just saying we have to keep our eyes open all the time, because even in the best of places, there's bad characters. That's all.
Gotcha.
It might not even be about you. I just wanted other people to hear that and think about it.
Yes. Thank you. So we dated almost 3 years, and both of us had been through long marriages and very similar type of circumstances of our divorces. And so we were both cognizant of each other's pain. We both had been married to people who had drinking problems, people who frequently fled the family home and then would return. So I would say narcissists. So we both had been through enough to where we knew that we just wanted something. Are you still there?
Yeah.
Something a little light and fun. And what happened was that we clicked, and we traveled together, and we had family activities together with his kids and grandkids who I know from the school that I teach at. And I had mentioned to him I was really hesitant to get involved like that because of little children. I didn't want to harm their hearts or minds. And after we dated about a year and a half, I just blurted out to him that I loved him, and it caught him completely off guard. And he said that he wasn't there yet, but that he didn't want to lose this relationship because he had a glitch that prevented him from saying it to just about anybody. And
let me ask you a question. You said it totally took him off guard. Had there been, you guys were totally platonic, just pals the whole time?
No.
What kind of non-platonic stuff was going on?
Intimate.
And it took him off guard.
Yeah. So his backstory, born to a teenage mother. She was married 7 times. He never knew his father.
Wow.
Yeah. He had children with a woman that he never married. When they broke up, she became an addict. He met somebody else a couple of years later. They got married, had some children together. That marriage ended in divorce. So
okay.
When he blocked off, when I told him that I loved him, I told him that I understood that his fear is because that every woman he's ever loved has hurt him. He hasn't probably attached or allowed himself to attach or bond. Anyway, in June, I just kind of wanted to I asked him to, give some space, take a step back. And he was like, no, everything is fine. I'm just busy with work. And I understood there's some things going on that he needed to address, very important things, and a shift for him in his personal and business life. Things were going pretty good. And then last week, he told me, because I hadn't heard from him for 2 days, was that he was taking a break and needed some space.
You said he was taking a break and needing some space?
Yes. And he was very honest and a gentleman. He said, I can't give you the type of relationship you deserve. Which I've never pressured for a commitment. We each have our own homes and our own adult children, and I didn't feel a need to blend a life or blend a family. I just really enjoyed him.
And so is it over now?
I don't know. Like, he's told his close friends that we traveled with and spent weekends with for dinners and evenings out that he broke up with me, and that's kind of a sign, right?
That's a declaration. He said, yeah.
So now I know it's not like as traumatic as my divorce was. And I'm...
Well, but 3 years of deeply connected, and that's traumatic. I mean, it's a big deal.
Yeah, I just plowed through your book, Changes That Heal. And I just, I don't want to experience this pain. It's very uncomfortable. When I'm calculating the losses of friends and children, and the life that we had was always the life that I'd hoped I could have had with my former spouse, and we never could get there. And I finally felt like I was being rewarded for enduring a really difficult marriage and just savoring my golden years.
Yeah. So you've lost a lot.
A lot.
A lot. Like a real lot. And it's not only have you lost a lot, you kind of re-experienced probably some of the previous pain. It's going to whatever's, you know what I mean? You kind of, it taps into reliving some of the first one, would be my guess.
It definitely, like, since June, there's just been some things that have gone on that have triggered me to some old wounds. That anxious, is he gonna call me to go out tonight? Is he not? When am I gonna hear from him again? And is he gonna text me good morning like he usually does? I mean, I could even feel my inner child being wounded, just from basic needs not being met when I was younger.
Yeah. I get it. It's horrible. So what's your question? I mean, you got some grieving and healing to do. But
so what's an appropriate timeline? I don't want to
what's an appropriate
5 years timeline. I don't want to spend 5 years wandering the wilderness like I did after my divorce.
Yeah, I don't want you doing that either. The timeline, you know what? I don't think you can give a timeline. I think you can give a process line, and this is more helpful, I think. Give a process line of what the process looks like, so you make sure that you're going through the process, and you can give an activities line, and you can give an ingredients line. So how the degree to which all three of those lines are working well, that will determine the time. Because some people, if they're not doing the ingredients and activities and processes of grieving, then the timeline is endless, because it's sort of like if you have an infected finger, how long does it take to heal? Well, I don't know. Has it been cleaned out? Has it been flushed out? Has you had antibiotics on it? Has it gotten air? Or has it gotten re-injured and recut and banged with a hammer? Or has it just gotten ignored? Those are very different timelines. So when
I noticed this was happening, I immediately went back to my Christian counselor in another town, because I just could feel something was coming. So I have that activity.
Okay, good. So you are seeing your counselor?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, the next thing I would do is, and do you have 2 or 3 really close friends that are going to walk through this with you?
Yes.
Okay. I would structure it with them. I would call them and say, you know what? I'm going to need my buddy system working here. I may need to come spend the night at your house every now and then. I want to set up some regular dinners. I know I'm with one of you this night and another one this night. You may have to add some structure to it so you don't fall into the wilderness, as you said. So I would do that. And then the next thing I would do is I would join a good divorce recovery group or grief group where people are there going through the process together. And in addition to that, I would make sure you're chronicling the touch points along the way. They're tapping into some of this older stuff and processing that with your counselor. And if you're doing all those things, I think you'll do pretty well. You sound like you have a lot of awareness.
I do.
Yeah. And just, there's one of my favorite verses says, it's in Hebrews. I say it all the time. It says, make level paths for your feet so that the limb that's injured might be healed instead of further put out of joint. So when we're injured, when a football player gets injured, they pull them off the field because that's not a level path. They're going to get hit. They're going to get tackled. They're going to get blocked. And they could really do some damage to a wounded leg. So we want to make a level path for you. So I want you to really structure this upcoming, period of months. It's going to be a level path. So when you start to hurt, you got somebody to call. You got a place to go land. You're processing all of this. And probably don't jump in any rebound deals too quickly.
No,
So
no,
that's the way. That's the
no.
way I would think about it. I've got to get to some other callers, but I'd like to gift you something, Rita. I have a webinar, and I want you to give Albie your info so he can get this to you. But I've got a webinar on recovering from divorce because you're. I know you weren't married, but you're in the same process, really. And I want you to watch that. And I'm going to gift it to you, and he'll get your info for
Thank
that.
you.
Will you do that for me?
Yes, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I missed the one about the brokenness, healing your brokenness, because that was actually on my birthday this year. So.
Well, let's
Yeah,
give you
so
that one too. Albie, get her
you.
both of those. And I hope you heal. If you heal quickly, you're going to heal. I hope you heal quickly. And the sooner you can get into all of those different components, the better. And be careful. I would say this to not only you, Rita, but other people that are kind of, in that world. When she talked about how deeply traumatic this was. Well, all of the systems in her were married. I mean, your brain, your body, your heart, all of the attachment systems, all of that, just because you haven't signed the paper, but you're doing everything else, having a family, activities, all of that marriage has, then when that breaks up, the pain is going to feel like a divorce. You lose circles of friends, the people you used to share together. I mean, it's very, very similar when if somebody's dating and they do all of the different components of marriage, it gets so deep in all those aspects of your heart and soul that I think he's used some word like you were surprised or shocked or something at the level. I just want to validate your pain. Of course, it's going to hurt deeply because all the components. I mean, it's like going through another divorce. So what that also says on the flip side is next time, before you begin to go to certain levels, there's certain things that in God's design are reserved for marriage, right? Sex and kids and a family and all of that, because that stability is there. But maybe before all that stuff happens, you at least know you're in a relationship with somebody that's the degree of commitment is mutual. And then that's when you go to more serious stuff. So be careful, know that somebody's on the same page as you are. So when you're going to the different levels of relationship and ultimately marriage, where you have it all, that's all aligned together. So you don't, get hurt so deeply again. Okay, 844-940-2774 is the number. Okay, Albie, you're gifting her things, I hope. Tell her thank you for her call. And I really enjoyed talking with her, and I hope she heals quickly. Okay. Where are we? Terry listens on Instagram, is calling us from Texas again. I got all my Texas pals calling me today because I'm in Texas. Hey Terry, welcome to the program.
Hey, Dr. Cloud, how are you?
I'm not too bad. How are you doing? Where are you in Texas?
I'm from Dallas Fort Worth area.
Oh, I went to school over there in Dallas.
Well, that's awesome. We would like for you to come back if you ever decide to come.
You know what? There's an income tax rate in Texas that's pretty attractive. How about that? Can you get them to do that in California? Anyway, that's a different topic. Tell me how I can help you.
Well, sir, I called you in, I believe, February, and I had a backstory. I was living with my father for about a year. I had sold my house and we had paid off all of our, debts and everything. And when I moved in with my father, we had renovated the house and done a whole lot of work on it. And then basically my dad, throughout my whole life, he's been kind of up and down, verbally, mentally, emotionally abusive.
Hang on. Hold on. Excuse me. I got to get this right. You sold your house and moved into his house?
Yes, sir. And I did that with the understanding that when he died, that we would, basically inherit the house, and that I could be there for him in the event that any kind of medical situations arose, because he has like diabetes and things of that nature, that he is kind of like, his health is not always great. So me and my family were going to be.
I just want to make sure I got it right. So you moved in, and the deal, if you want to call it that, the agreement y'all had was, I'll move in with you and take care of you, be kind of like your in-home care person, and for doing that, you'll get the house. Was that y'all talked about that?
Yes, exactly, sir. And we renovated the home. We put a lot of money into it, almost $100,000, and we even bought a vehicle for him to use.
When you say we, who's we?
Me and my husband.
Okay.
So what ended up happening was that my father, he's had abusive tendencies all of his life, and he's always been that way ever since I was a child towards my mom, siblings, for me even. But I kind of looked at it, okay, that's in the past, I'm gonna put it behind me, and maybe things will be different. Well, then we ended up living there less than a year, and all of a sudden, I would just, it was like a cycle. Like there would be good times, bad times, and eventually I just decided to get off the crazy train, and we basically ended up getting to a position where I was like, we have to move out. And so my husband finally, kind of told him, hey, we're going to leave in a few months, and we just want to give you some time so you can save some money and get yourself in a better position financially, so that when we leave, it's not all on, it's not a surprise. Well, basically what ended up happening was he got the law involved, and he tried to set us up to where we would be like removed from our home, and he ended up basically illegally evicting us. And ever since that happened, I haven't talked to him. Whenever I would try to go back to my home to pick up items, he would call the police. He claimed that we would be attacking him when we wouldn't be. So now we have to go the legal route, and we have to hire a lawyer and everything. Well, my father, I ended up getting a lot of notifications from his doctor's office, and basically I ended up finding out, since I was kind of like his caregiver, that he has stage 4 cancer, and that now it's kind of like serious because he may have like less than a year to live. But at this point, what he's done to me and all the things he said.
Did this happen after y'all were gone, or he was sick and you didn't know it during the time you were there? Which was that?
Yes, sir. Well, actually, what ended up happening was that he's had it for 4 years, and just nobody ever really knew about it. Like,
oh wow,
yeah. So, but when I ended up going back and getting some of my things, he basically told me a lot of really awful things. Like he told me, like, because I have a history of depression, and he basically called me mentally ill, psycho, bitch. Sorry about the words. I know that you may have a mixed audience, but then, he called my husband names too. He just basically, he did and said everything he can possibly say to hurt me the last time that I saw him.
And hold on a second. I just want to get this right. How long did you live with him? About a year, you said?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, until you guys told him that you were moving out, was he acting like this all throughout that year?
It was a cycle. There was times when I actually had a sit down with him, and I said, Dad, I cannot take how you're treating me. Like, I really think you need to go get mental health. Like, he would, yes, the things that he said as far as calling me names and stuff, whenever he argues, it's like you're arguing with like a 13-year-old child, because he just name calls.
So this is not, I know you said in the history he's had some issues, but in the modern time period, of this year of when you lived there, this behavior was going on the whole time. It wasn't just after you said you're leaving.
Right, that's correct. And that's what ended up getting to the point where I couldn't take it and I had to leave, you know?
Okay, so what is the question?
So basically what's happening right at this moment is that, you know, I am going to counseling but, you know, I have family members and some of my family members, like, you know, like, I know that you guys have your history and, you know, I know that he has trouble. He's a troubled man and
what
things
does
of that
family
nature.
Members mean? Is that siblings? Is that cousins?
Siblings. Yes, sir. Siblings.
Okay. How many siblings? How many siblings?
Well, right now, it's mostly just my sister right now. That my other brothers, you know, ever since what happened with my father, it's kind of like a bomb has gone off and people have like taken sides, you know. So my sister is really the one she's trying to encourage me basically to reach out to my dad because she knows that he's on limited time and you know, she doesn't want me to have any regrets after he leaves. But honestly, Dr. Cloud, I just have no desire to speak to him because of what he did. It was kind of like the last straw, you know.
You mean what he did when you went to talk to him to tell him that you don't want him to treat you that way, and then he went off on you? Is that what you mean?
No, sir. Mostly just how he basically kicked us out of his house and he legally evicted us. And every time we would try to go back to retrieve our property, you know, he would call the police and claim we were attacking him, which was untrue.
Okay, but I thought you also went back. Didn't you also go back and try to tell him you didn't like the way he was treating you and he went off on you? Was that after that?
Well, actually, no, sir. That was like about midway through that year of us living with him. You know, I was trying to take steps. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So what's the question?
So just knowing that he's on limited time, you know, I resent the fact that now he's on limited time and I have all these people basically saying, well, you should reach out to him because, you know, I feel like it would be me doing it even against my will because I'm not sorry for anything that I did because I feel like I didn't do anything wrong. I was the one who was treated badly.
Does reaching out to him in some way mean that you did something wrong?
I believe it does because I think that in his head, it would be
hold on, stop. I'm not talking about in his head. His head is crazy.
Yeah.
He doesn't think rational thoughts. So the last place we're going to get strategic input is from his head, right?
Right.
So let's not worry about that.
Okay.
What I said was, going off what you said, was does reaching out to him and trying to have a conversation, because you said the reason I did it, well, I didn't do anything wrong. Does that somehow mean you did something wrong?
To me, like, I just don't know if I would want to reach out to him because, like, I don't think he's sorry for what he did.
That's not what I asked either.
Okay.
See, it sounds like he's hurt you. This is unjust, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
He's treated you unfairly.
Mm-hmm.
You tried to give him good, and he gave you bad back.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. Yes, I agree.
So there's unless something happened, you're not telling me. There's no doubt who's wrong here.
Yes, and honestly, like, I would never want to hide anything. If it was my fault, I would more than willing to take responsibility. You know,
I totally believe you. I'm agreeing with you. So let's agree he's in the wrong in the way that he's treated you. He's treated you terribly. He threw you out. He did all this stuff. He makes up all this stuff, and he may have some, who knows, dementia. Who knows why he's doing this, but whether or not you're going to reach out to him has nothing to do with whether or not he deserves it or that it would mean anything about you. That I mean, those things are clear. That wouldn't, so that's really not even something that even is on the table.
So what
But
do you think I should do?
that, well, hold on. But that seems to be what you're mostly talking about was I don't want to reach out to him because, I didn't do anything wrong. He won't apologize, all this kind of stuff. And here's why I'm saying this. Let's just settle that case. I'll hit the gavel. Okay, guilty. He's guilty. So the question becomes then a different question. What would be a reason to reach out to him? And if you reached out to him, what are they saying you should reach out to him with? How? What message? What's the goal? What's the reason? So what do they say? Your advice givers. And then I'm going to give you some.
Okay. Well, I would say that mostly they don't want me to have regrets about him, passing away, and then me not getting like some sort of peace of mind, I guess, that I'll have regrets about that.
Okay. It doesn't sound like you think you're going to have any regrets.
I don't think so, just because I know that I can say in my own heart that I did everything that I could possibly do to help him, and that, it was his choice to act destructively towards my family. And so I can't say in my own mind, I know there will be times when I will be sad, because I still am sad, but, I don't think I would have regrets.
Okay. Well, if the regrets are about what's gone on in the past, then I guess they're wrong because you're sure that you treated him well, and we already said you hit the gavel on the judge's table, right? He's wrong here. That's it for regrets.
Well, I mean, I see. It's like I just don't know if it's going to be like I'm one day gonna like wake up and be like, man, I should have done this, because once it's over, it's over. Once he's gone, he's gone. And so it's like basically like once the anger is gone, then the grief will come. And then I don't want to hate myself for whatever choice I made.
So you just told me a minute ago you're not going to have any regrets, and now you think you might have some regrets.
Right. Yes.
See, this is why processing things helps, because you find out maybe there's more to it. See, your initial stance is very much fight, right? I'm going to fight these messages, and I'm going to fight him because I'm not giving in because he's wrong, right? Which is normal when you've been hurt, right? So, are you a person of faith?
Yes, and that was kind of what motivated me to do everything that I did in the first place. I felt like that was something that would...
you did, and you did everything by the book. You went and talked to him. You got other people involved. I mean, you did everything, and he's wrong. But let me give you one more thing that hasn't been done in the context of that he's dying. You haven't had that conversation, right?
Not with him, no, sir.
Yeah. So all of this is kind of new information since all the other things you've done. So if it were me, now you said I didn't do anything wrong. Well, if you're a person of faith, what Jesus said was that if somebody has something, not only, well, there's two different directions. If somebody has something against us, he says, then put down your prayers, put down your offerings before you go talk to God. Go talk to them and see if there's any way that, you can kind of work this thing out in that direction if they're bugged with us. And then it says if if somebody sinned against us, then go to them. So really the what his teaching was we always move towards trying to do everything that we can do. Now you've kind of done that and you were rejected, but it wasn't in the context of his dying. So if it were me, now I don't know if this is going to be too injurious to you. It doesn't sound like it. You hadn't talked about that. You just talked about more the right and wrong part of it. But if it's not going to hurt you in some way, I think this is a new context, and I would go to him, or and say I'd like to talk to you, and say, Dad, we've had some troubles, and as you know, I was hurt by some things. I didn't like some of the things you did. I feel like tried to help and all of that. And, you fought back but now this is a different game. We don't have a lot of time to see if we can get to a good place here in forgiveness and be on a good page, because we don't have a lot of time. Before we kind of were treating it like we had a lot of time. We don't have a lot of time. And what Jesus said is settle your disputes before you get to court. So we're going to all show up in court one day. And he said, try to solve your disputes. You know how when people sue each other, the judge says, look, go try to work this out and get a settlement, because if you come back here, it's going to be worse. And they try to settle out of court. Well, that's what Jesus said. So if I were in your situation, I would say to him what I just said. We don't have a lot of time. Can we just kind of see if we can get to a good place before you die? Because I don't want to die. I don't want you to die and we're still alienated. And I'm willing to forgive you. I don't want it to be like this. And it's up to you, Dad. I've done all I can do, but will you? And so that's what I would do. Not because of the reasons you were pushing against, like, does he deserve that from you? No. Is he in the wrong? Yes. But are our actions going to be dictated by the lowest common denominator? Or do we want to overcome evil with good if possible? So that's what that's what I think the good book tells us to do. And then you're going to not have any regrets. And you don't have to have the crummy feelings of, okay, I had to go do this. You didn't have to do this. You chose that for a higher reason than giving into this mean man. You're not losing anything. So that's how I would look at it.
Okay. Well, thank you for your advice. It's been a rough road, and
It's
just
terrible.
up and downs with him constantly. So I'm just trying to work my way out of it, and I just
of course it is
don't want to get
terrible what you've described. And don't go back in there thinking this somehow invalidates everything that's gone wrong, or somehow you're saying he didn't. What I would also do before I did this is I would go to have some good people like you've talked to me, some good support people that sit with you and go, oh my gosh, he did that. That's terrible. I agree with you. That's really bad. And I would name it and I'd get all that out. And because, you're the innocent party here, and that needs to be validated. We can't forgive somebody until we've named how bad it was for what they did. And you need to be heard and validated. And then you're going to feel like, you're not giving anything, so anyway, there you go. That's what I think.
Thank you, Dr. Clouden.
Okay. Thank you for your call. Go get some help so people are on your side. And you got people on your side, then maybe you can do something that maybe work out right, and maybe those regrets you're not so sure of, which I don't really see that as the big reason here. I see the big reason um, as just kind of rising above it, and there's healing and power in that when we don't need somebody to be, in some way, something that they're different. All righty. I think we are kind of up against the clock here. And unfortunately, I've got where does the time go? I've got a event I need to be in, or I would love to talk to everybody who's been waiting. Some of you have been there for a while. We couldn't get to everybody, but I want to talk to you. So make sure that you call me back another time. It is it's always fun to be with you, even here on the road, your roving reporter. Let me get one more reminder in before we end, because I really want y'all to be there on the live event, September 28th, The Art of Confrontation. It's going to be a good one. We're going to be talking about the science and the art of what's the best way to confront a problem with somebody that gives it the best chance of getting to a good ending, and what are some ways you really want to avoid doing it, because those don't work. So, Art of Confrontation. Here's how you sign up. Go to boundaries.me/confront. That's a website. Boundaries.me/confront to sign up for that. All righty. Good to be with you guys. It is always good to be with you. We have the best audience in the world. You guys are rock stars. And I love the way you share your lives, and you're in this journey of, getting well and getting stronger and healing and growing and faith and all that. And I'm grateful for you. So thanks. And I'll see you next time. Okay.